This is the Erin Cruz Show. Politics for the people and by the people. With your host, Erin Cruz.
So my name is Deanna Lorraine, and I am the author of Making Love Great Again. This is my book, The New Road to Reviving Romance and Winning at Relationships. It is for singles, it's for couples, it's for people who aren't even interested in relationships, because it's also a book about American values and American exceptionalism and how that's tied into our relationships. So you can get the book on Amazon. Just type in Making Love Great Again and grab the book, and would love it if you wrote a review too.
Yes,
and
reviews are good.
Yes, reviews are good. I do a podcast too, a Make Love Great Again podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
What time?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific Time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Go to my channel at DeannaLorraine.com. Deanna Lorraine 7. That's my YouTube channel. And that's where I talk about all the kind of pull in the current events of the day and how they apply to these themes of the book and Making Love Great Again. So definitely tune into my podcast. I think you'll really like it. I go into in depth with a lot of these themes. And then hashtag Make Love Great Again.
We pray they'll be all right, and you'll watch them as they grow. Lead them through the night. Let your spirit flow. Lord, this is our prayer. Every single day. Lead us to a place. Guide us with your grace to a place where they'll be safe.
Cruz Show. We have a returning guest tonight. She is phenomenal. I always say that, but she is. She really is. We have Chris Ann Hall on with us this evening. We are going to talk about liberty and right to life. Welcome to the Erin Cruz Show, Chris Ann.
Oh, thank you so much, Erin. It is always a pleasure for me to be here with you. And I love I love being in California, even if I'm not there.
Well, that's the thing is, with this being the internet, it really, anybody worldwide can hear this podcast, this recording, this online show. But there are a lot of Californians here that don't feel like their views are being represented, certainly in government for sure. And we're just so glad to hear you on the show and hear what your perspective is, because you are a true liberty perspective person, and your position always comes from the point of liberty, not party, but liberty. And I love that about you and your work. So tell me, with all of the rhetoric going on and every bleeding heart liberals crying and conservatives getting upset because bleeding, this whole thing with all of the abortion bills that are being passed, right to life, heartbeat bills not going through. Please, we need a liberty expert, liberty person to come and tell us, and speak to us about the founders and from a liberty perspective, what we could expect from, say, the Supreme Court and other perspectives on some of these issues.
Erin, this is a really, really good topic of discussion to learn many fundamental things about the creation of our Constitution, the proper role and activity of government, and even the purpose of government. And so if I can just start at the beginning.
Absolutely.
We would start then with the Declaration of Independence, because the Declaration of Independence says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Right. Among those, life, right? Liberty life. And the pursuit of happiness. A life is an inalienable right, okay? Life is an unalienable right. And once life has begun, it begins to have an inalienable right. And the problem that we have in America, I think, is a basically, I hate to say it this way, it's not just simply spiritual, Erin, but it's anatomical, right? And physiological. A baby is not an organ in a woman's body. Right? It is not an organ in a woman's body. It is not a cancer, and it is not a fingernail. Right. It is a separate living organism. And not only that, it's a living human being. Right. And you can debate all day long about certain aspects of the development of a child in a woman's body. But you cannot make an honest argument that is not a human being. You cannot. It's not honest, okay? And you certainly cannot make an honest argument that it is not alive. The very word abortion indicates that life has begun, because you can't stop something. You can't abort a process that has not begun. And it's not rocket science. I mean, what you're talking about is not rocket science. And I think just on a very basic level, the people and the listeners out there today, their heads may be exploding, or they may be going, she's putting this in such a great perspective, because it's true. Like you're saying, you can't abort something that's not already headed in a certain direction. You can't stop something that it hasn't already started. And the right to life, where does that begin? Well, at the beginning, at conception. So this is the argument is, what is life? When does life begin? At the heartbeat? We've heard about the heartbeat bill. I mean, there's been a lot of iterations throughout the years, but in perspective, in the last 3 months, we've heard even more about the different, specifics of
these bills that have come through, everything from, the heartbeat bill to just all of them. And you think, well, is it this complicated, Chris Ann? Or are these just people trying to get anything through to tug on liberty and in an effort to overstep the baby and the infant's rights to life?
Well, I don't think the proponents of abortion have any
Uh-oh.
understanding of liberty to begin with. But I can tell you, I have a degree in law, and I was a prosecutor for uh, a decade, and,
Right.
and practiced First Amendment law for several years. But my undergraduate degree is actually in biochemistry, and so I know a little bit about the human body. I know a little bit about the biology and how things work, and I actually uh, worked as a microbiologist for a few years as well. And you said, when does life begin? Well, some will say, okay, when the heart beats, or it's just a single cell, so it's not alive. Or they'll
But
say,
sperm is alive.
Hmm?
Sperm is alive. It's moving. It's going, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, but that's yeah, that's right. But
And you have the egg, and you have the
my
sperm, and
analogy is this, Erin. As a microbiologist, you would never see a biologist argue that a single cell organism is not alive. They would
right,
not make that argument
right. That's true.
because it has a nucleus, it's splitting, I mean, it
And
is
it doesn't
growing,
even have a
it is
heart.
reproducing its life.
And it doesn't have a heart.
Right, and it does. No. But here's the thing. The other argument that you have is, well, the baby is not alive until it can survive on its own outside the womb. And so my simple response to that is, well, let me see. How about if I inject you into space and you die because you have no spacesuit on? Does that mean when you were on the earth you were not alive because I stuck you somewhere where you couldn't live? And so the argument is just ridiculous. You can use that analogy anyways. Go to the single cell. If I'm a microbiologist and I take the single cell off of its nutrient median and we put it someplace in the desert and it dies, does that mean it was never alive? You will never find a microbiologist that will say that. So the argument that life doesn't exist until it lives outside the womb is false. What they're really doing, Erin, is redefining life in very specific terms for a very specific purpose.
Right.
So if
So
you're going
this
to talk about life, you got to be consistent.
right. And this is the deal from my perspective, as just say, I know I'm running for Congress and I'm very politically active, whatever, but just as a regular everyday woman, as a mom, I'm watching what they're doing in terms of legislation, and it looks to me like they're positioning, many states in different ways are positioning to force the hand of the Supreme Court. Do you believe that to be true?
I do. Well, I mean, we can't deny it to be true. The legislators who wrote the Alabama law specifically said they wrote the Alabama law to challenge Roe v. Wade.
Right.
And I covered this on my radio show in great detail.
Yes.
And I think this is a very bad idea. It is a very bad idea to write legislation on the state level with the purpose of challenging Supreme Court. And I know that's gonna be shocking to some people, but let me explain to you why. And this is the second thing that makes this issue very important. So the first thing is,
it is an important issue.
Yeah, it's obviously, the first thing is that we have recognized in America from the very beginning that the right to life is inseparable from every human being. As a matter of fact, the Declaration of Independence says, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. The entire purpose for creating the states was to secure the inherent right of life for every human being. And so now we have to deal with this issue, why it's a bad idea for the states to craft law specifically to challenge Roe v. Wade. Number one, and this is why, number one, it's a bad idea. It's not necessary. Okay? It's a bad idea because challenging Roe v. Wade on the state level is not necessary. And that's also going to be very shocking to people. And I'll say it from this perspective. Roe v. Wade is not the law of the land. Roe v. Wade is a Supreme Court opinion, a Supreme Court opinion that, legally speaking, only affects Roe and Wade. Court opinions do not create national law. They do not create law of any kind.
Yes, you can't legislate from the bench. Right. Legislating from the bench, it shouldn't be happening. And in the perspective that that's the case, right, I completely agree. So now, real quick, before we go on to the details about that, let's give people information on where they can go to find your radio show and your articles written. I believe your website is www.chrisannehall.com. That's KRISANNE Hall.com. Is that true?
That is right. Yep.
Okay.
chrisannehall.com. You don't even have to have the www in front of it. You can just type KRISANNEHALL.com.
Awesome.
And there you find the radio show, the podcast that I did on the Alabama abortion law. I even have it on YouTube as well. We did a podcast video of the show. And you can also find an article that I've written called The Inalienable Right to Life, which explains to you why Roe v. Wade is not the law of the land, and it's not even good law. It's bad Supreme Court logic based on worse science. Roe v. Wade is not based on any kind of legal argument whatsoever. It's based on faulty science and judicial activism.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the truth.
Right.
So,
and it's an unfortunate truth. So now, where do you stand in terms of, from a liberty perspective, because that's really where, what we'd like to hear from you. Where do you stand in seeing how the founders would have dealt with some of the issues of today? Because this issue of abortion has split our country. Of course, the media and other powers that be are not helping. But from a liberty perspective, where would the founders stand on all of this?
Well, there's two things that we should remember. Number one, it was our founders who wrote that every person possessed an inalienable right to life. Okay, so, and they said, you can find this specific quote scattered through multiple writings of multiple people. And they use the phrase for ages and millions yet unborn.
Right.
Samuel Adams talked about it a lot. The liberties we lose today will be suffered by ages and millions yet unborn. They said why we're fighting is for ages and millions yet unborn. And they also said in the Declaration of Independence that they were pledging their life, their fortune, and their sacred honor. So the people who gave us our independence from Great Britain, the people who drafted and ratified the Constitution, believed that the unborn possessed a liberty worth dying for.
Right.
So
repeat that again. Repeat that again. The people need to hear that again.
Founders, and this is not Chris Ann Hall's opinion, by the way. This is based on multiple texts, multiple writings from multiple people that founded America. Our founders believed that the unborn possessed a liberty worth dying for.
Right. And that's important to reflect on. It really is, because we're in a space and time right now where there's so much divide and anger and hate for differing opinions. And the value placed on words just doesn't seem that there is any. And when you share your opinion or facts or your belief systems, or you choose life, there's such hate about that. But the founders saw the value in fighting for those lives, the unborn lives. And it's just, it brings chills to me. I mean,
Well,
it just
Erin,
brings chills.
the other thing the founders would tell us about this situation is that the states do not have to accept the Supreme Court's opinion on Roe v. Wade. They would tell us that that opinion does not affect state and local law. And for two reasons. Number one, the federal government does not have any authority to define life, whether that be through Congress, the executive, or the judicial. Number two,
is that one of the reasons why you find that this pushing of these states to define Roe versus Wade is dangerous as well?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Defining
right.
life. I mean, the minute the Supreme Court goes to define life, that could be very dangerous.
Well, they already have. That's what Roe v. Wade is all about, defining life. But the problem is that is not binding on the states. I'll explain why. The Article 3 of the Constitution delegates power to the judiciary. The federal, the ratifiers of the Constitution specifically withheld jurisdiction from federal courts on matters that involved the intrajudiciary estates of the intrajudiciary affairs of the states. So any judicial action that takes place completely within the borders of the state is not under the Supreme Court's jurisdictions. So Roe v. Wade is an illegal opinion written by the Supreme Court because it has no authority to do it. And the 14th Amendment doesn't...
Right, I was going to ask you about the 14th.
Yeah. The
Go on.
14th Amendment does not give the Supreme Court the authority to handle these cases, because read the 14th Amendment. There is absolutely nothing in the 14th Amendment that amends Article 3 to add the power to the judiciary. As a matter of fact, this is the crazy thing. I don't know why nobody notices this. Read the 14th Amendment and you will find there's no authority, new authority vested in the federal government at all. It's simply a declaration.
And I've brought up the 14th Amendment quite a bit, probably in the last couple weeks just alone. You know, you can't read one line from somewhere, you know, in the abyss, and then argue 14th isn't applicable. It boggles my mind. People can just toss it out the window. It doesn't apply. It's like, are you kidding me? You know, the divide is vast, so we have to get back to the basics. You know, Chris Ann, we're getting close to the end of the show. Speaking about getting back to the basics, getting back to liberty, you have some really great news about some growth in your business, and I would like for you to share a little bit about that, and also let the people know again one last time where they can go learn more about getting back to the basics and getting back to the fundamentals of liberty and freedom.
Well, Erin, this is actually, you guys are going to be the first ones to hear this. I haven't made the official public announcement yet. I'm going to be doing that later this week. But JC, my husband, and I have been traveling all over the country for 9 years now, averaging about 260 teaching classes in over 22 states every single year. And that's just too much traveling to keep up for this long. And
and you have a family. Children.
Yes. We have a 13-year-old son who needs stability. He needs to have some good friends, and so there's a Bible college in Tampa, the River Bible Institute, and they have a school of government, and the pastor has brought JC, my husband, and I on board to completely revamp and design a new curriculum for their school of government with a single purpose: to get people of America educated on true constitutional principles, true American history, not revision, and put them in government places and in law schools so they can become the judges, the lawyers, and the politicians who will restore America from the inside out.
Yes. Well, this is huge, Chris Ann. This is huge.
Yeah,
it's huge for your family, and what a blessing. God is so good. He's just so faithful, and I'm so glad to hear that you've been traveling and actively teaching about liberty so much, but I'm also glad to hear he's going to grow an opportunity for you to breathe life into the states and into people who really want to get involved in government, principled leaders, and it's just so dynamic that he's able to use you and your husband in that way.
Can you imagine, Erin? Can you imagine a whole counterculture of people being birthed? We've been like like a nebula of
Right.
birthing people who are desirous of actually going into government with real principles and real knowledge, not this fake stuff that they learn in law schools, not the propaganda that they learn in the vetted, so-called vetted colleges, but real American, unadulterated, true, unrevised history with real constitution, as if the founders themselves were in the university teaching it.
It's amazing. And I pray nothing but prosperity and blessings upon you and your husband as you step out in faith with this organization, and that all of you would just continue to walk in God's grace and
I know we
have
already
strength.
have over 300 students.
Yes.
So.
That's amazing. That is amazing. It's such good news. Well, Chris Ann Hall, thank you again for coming on the Erin Cruz Show and being a part and sharing a bit with us from your liberty perspective. Folks, that is Chris Ann Hall. Go to chrisannhall.com to learn more about her programs, and her new outreach. God bless you, Chris Ann, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for all you're doing, Erin. Voices like yours are so very important. Not only that, we need real conservative, educated, concerned, liberty, life-loving women to stand up against all of this snowflake, feminist, ridiculous Nazism that they have. So
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's just so true. I can't believe the type of individuals that are out there today. And it is true. It's going to take a lot of brave women and men throughout this country to get things back on track for millions of unborn U.S. citizens to come, right?
Yes.
All right. God bless you.
It's up to us, Erin. We've got to restore America through education. It's not going to happen in the school system.
Absolutely, it's not. We're going to have to take control, and I'm glad you're leading the charge, Chris Ann. God bless you. Good luck. Godspeed.
Thank you.
You're standing on the edge of disaster, telling me you can't go on. I can hear your heart beating faster, wondering what you did wrong. Broken inside, losing your fight. I know what it's like to break, so let me hold you through the pain. I know what you're fighting for. You're in the middle of a war. Even down on your broken road, there's still hope. You are not alone. Tell me what you're waiting for. Just let me open up the door to give you hope. You are not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone. You're not alone. You are not a slave to the master, a prisoner inside your mind. I can even see what you're after, but I will never leave your side. Never lose hope, the end of your road, staring death face to face. Now will you stand and walk away? I know what you're fighting for. You're in the middle of a war. Even down on your broken road, there's still hope. You are not alone. Tell me what you're waiting for. Just let me open up the door
you can go to Amazon.com to get 2 of my books. One of them is no longer available on Amazon due to a problem with a publisher.
Okay.
And I have about 100 copies that you can get through my blog, which is Paul Sutliff, PaulSutliff.blogspot.com. And you can go there. I also have I'm starting online courses on the Muslim Brotherhood. I've created some, and if people are interested, I've got a teaser class. It's really cheap to begin with. There, I'm also about to do an expose on a textbook that is going to blow people's minds. So, watch out. I mean, next 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, at the least. This book is this not necessarily book, but this thing is coming out.
Right.
My books are Stealth Jihad: Phase 2, Infiltrate American Colleges, Civilization Jihad, and the last one, What Social Studies Teachers Need to Know About Islam.
You say you want a revolution. Well, we can't agree to that. You seem to be filled with confusion. Well, we all know you must be a Democrat. The rest of us know that socialism sucks. That ain't no way to make a living, but open up your eyes and see the USA is free, as it should be. Don't even try to take it away, or you'll hear us say, no! You want to shred the Constitution? Well, no. We all want to change your head.
That's a good thing.
You tell me it's the institution. Well, no. You better free your mind instead. The rest of us know that socialism sucks. That ain't no way to make a living, but open up your eyes and see the USA is free, as it should be. Don't even try to take it away, or you'll hear us say, oh, so why not drop your sore illusions? Do it while you can. If you want a true revolution, it's make America great again. We are America, dear. We won't be Britain, Venezuela here.
Hello and welcome back to the Erin Cruz Show. We have on with us a returning guest again. We have Roxanne Hogue, or Beckford Hogue, here with us today to talk a little bit about censorship, First Amendment, Second Amendment, and other rights, unalienable rights given by God and being wiped away by big social media conglomerates. Well, welcome to the Erin Cruz Show, Roxanne.
Erin, it's so awesome to be back with you. I'm not running for anything, so that's a little liberating.
It's a little different, right?
Yeah, I'm always happy to talk to you because we've got a lot of work to do here in California.
Absolutely. And by the way, folks, in case you're not aware, Roxanne Hogue, she ran here in California for the state assembly, right? And she is a resident in the belly of the beast over towards Hollywood. So she's really in more liberal zone, if you will, in California. So just to give people
behind the blue curtain, if you will.
We need to get rid of the blue curtain and say we need a liberty curtain, folks.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to. I hear you've been helping out other California conservatives on their campaigns, some special elections.
Absolutely. Well, the thing people need to remember is, because people get very excited about talking about 2020, which is great, but we actually have a special election coming up right now, a bunch of them in LA County. on the 4th of June, and I'm sure in various other places too. There are a couple specials, and those are vital that we practice what we're trying to do. It's a great place to see if something works or it doesn't work, and also it's a chance to have a voice when it's not completely crowded out by a presidential race. So
Right.
I'm helping a friend, Brandon Sario, Saario, who's running for city council in LA,
We had
which
him.
is a nonpartisan race.
Yeah, so in case you watched our show last week, we had Brandon on. If you want to learn more about Brandon, his race, get involved, go back to our prior show, take a look-see, and follow up with him personally. But she's going to talk a little bit more about what's been going on. What's he been up to? How's it going with him?
Well, so there's also Jack Guerrero in LA County, and then we have this crazy nose in the camel's tent against Prop 13. It's no on EE, as I like to call it, Measure EEK, because they're trying to raise taxes again. So what I was doing, just by helping out a friend, posting on Twitter, and then I realized that Twitter wasn't allowing me to post anything that linked to Brandon's campaign website, which is, by the way, vetted and following all the rules by the LA City Council Ethics Commission, which is, that's an oxymoron. But it didn't make sense to me. So I thought, well, maybe it's just me. So I checked with some other people, and they said, no, I can't link to his site either. That's weird. Come to find out that out of the 15 candidates for city council, only one has his website blocked as being potentially unsafe.
Right. And that means that when people try to go to it, they get all these red flags. And of course, they're not going to want to go there. Or, they're going to say, oh, no, I don't want a virus on my machine. Or, oh, no, I don't want to click on that, which is natural. And I wouldn't blame you for that. But the problem is
worse, you couldn't say, check out my friend Brandon at his website.
Right.
It wouldn't allow you. It would put it into draft and says, Twitter's having trouble right now. So I did a little homework. Brandon was obviously on it. We talked to a lot of other people, and I ended up writing an article for American Greatness, which is a great online magazine, amgreatness.com, really about how, when I ran, I had a great campaign video that I tried to put. It was on YouTube, and I tried to follow all the rules and do political advertising and pay to boost that video. They wouldn't let me until, guess when? November 7th, the day after the election. They started boosting my video and charging me for it. So I wrote about that and just how sort of
the bias.
Their thumb on the scale in local elections. Now, why would big tech care about an LA City Council election? It's small, but the small stuff is where the big stuff gets built. Just ask George Soros, who put tons of money into quiet little district attorney races that no one pays attention to.
He put a lot of money into the San Diego district attorney race. He was putting spotting like millions. Down in San Diego County. Of course, he ended up pulling some of the funding and what have you. But the point is, he put a lot of money into some of these races. And that's why? Because they matter. They have impact locally, and they can really shape the way the communities are built out, especially city council and especially in LA County. There's a lot of deep-seated, as what would appear to be deep-seated corruption, and we could really use strong constitutionalists and conservatives like Brandon on that city council to at least give perspective and proper representation. And those big media conglomerates, they don't like that.
Which is crazy to me. I can't imagine that the people who work at Google and are making six figures, like that their only options for living are in sort of a van down by the river or commuting an hour and a half to work. And by the way, stepping over homeless people, defecating and shooting up in the streets on their way to work.
Right.
How is that a good quality of life for anyone? I don't care, Republican, Democrat, Independent, and it's really not good for the people living in the streets.
Right. Well, these things that we're seeing going on right now, they don't make sense. And unfortunately, in places like San Francisco, the logic would be the Democrats have held that as a stronghold for years. Same thing with LA. If you like the definition of insanity, do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. go for it. But if what you're doing isn't working and you want true and restorative change, maybe look at some conservative principles. Fiscal conservatism is not going to hurt you. It doesn't mean cutting public safety. It doesn't mean, cutting essential services. It's just a matter of getting rid of a lot of the redundancy in government, looking at efficiency, cutting out pork spending, reducing some regulations. I mean, conservatism isn't a bad word.
No,
it really isn't.
We don't have public safety or services right now with a long unbroken string of one-party Democrat rule in the city of Los Angeles. You can't drive or walk on our streets.
That's so unfortunate.
It's failed. It has completely failed.
Under Villaraigosa, and it's just so sad. It's just so sad, and this is an opportunity, though. Let's look at the flip side. This is an opportunity for people like Brandon and others to really make their mark once elected. But we have to help Brandon and you, who's helping Brandon, make that happen. They can't do it on their own, and it takes money. It takes donations, contributions, and volunteers knocking doors. I mean, he has barely, under 3 weeks left, right?
Two.
Basically
right. 2. Yeah, two and a bit.
Yes.
And it's so important. You're right. When people sit at home, even if they're not in California, by the way, California matters because we're the center of all the bad ideas that then get spread out to the other states. When people get sick of what the policies that they voted for have done to their state, they're moving to your state, and they're going to do the same thing there because they don't realize, they haven't made the connection that that these are the policies and the people that ruin communities. And so when someone says, "Gosh, what can I do?" Guess what? Your $25 will get someone able to boost a Facebook post. If you have $125, that's a radio spot. If you can donate, the maximum is $800. If you have a pair of shoes or a gun that cost $800, then it's sure worth it to put that much into a race in California that could turn the tide.
Right. And when we talk about pushing people out of California, city councils, they help shape the community. LA County is the largest county in the United States, in fact, and in California, certainly. And California is huge. But in terms of shaping policy or shaping communities in entirety, if costs are driven up because of local decisions, those costs are then spread out to the community and then billow out. And don't think it doesn't touch you if you're living in other states or if you're coming to vacation or other things. We have to be more broad about the way we view the impact, even on the local level. It's important and people really
LA
think
City
about this.
Council isn't just doing, little sales tax raises here and there. They started the plastic bag ban. They started banning the fur business within our borders. And by the way, they've banned the city from doing any business with anyone who's an NRA member, not a contractor, not a member. So they are launching a direct assault on our freedom of association, on our freedom to, of a free market. I mean, they're not messing around.
No, it's no game. It's not a game at all. It's very important, and not just if you live there. So where can people go to get involved? I know, folks, you need to watch Brandon's show from last week. Of course, you need to see him, hear what he has to say, really understand maybe a little bit more about him. But where do people go just right now if they don't want to do that yet? They're still listening to us speak. Where do they go to find out more?
Well, I'm Sario for council, and he's finished.
SAA. Go ahead.
SAARIO. It's 2 A's. So Sario for council.com.
Yes.
You can always go to my website, which is rightonusa.org, just to connect with me and find out what's going on. And you can follow us on Twitter, Roxanne for AD46.
Right.
And my battery's decided that it's having a moment.
Oh no. We can still see you, so that's all good.
So there's places to go, lagop.org, which is the website of the Los Angeles Republican Party, is really starting to collect email addresses, and we're going to be communicating with people in the county. And the California GOP, which is cagop.org, they're helping with Jack Guerrero's race because he's running in Long Beach for state senate, and he made the top 2.
Right.
And your other choice is a communist, right?
Right.
Socialist communist. So they're, because he's the only Republican, they're able to actually help you with call lists and getting out the vote. So if you live in a place where there's a special election and you look at the ballot booklet and you go, one thing, does it really matter?
It matters.
It matters so much. We cannot let people run roughshod over our freedoms and take away our property without putting up a fight. And sometimes that means, rolling yourself down to the local polling place, which they're trying to take away from us too. By the way, in 2020, you won't have a local polling place. California's moving, LA's moving to a lot of voting centers, trying to get everyone to do absentee ballots. Like, that's not rife for fraud.
Well, LA County has a bigger problem with its voting machines and other voting center issues because they signed a contract with a Venezuelan-tied organization, a multinational corporation, and it was like $500 million to overhaul their voting process and machines and what have you. There's a huge problem in LA County already, as we've seen with Election Integrity Project, who moved forward on a lawsuit and was successful with other groups in getting the state to force remove 1.5 million people from the voter rolls in LA County alone. We have to recognize LA as a hot spot where we don't pull away from that because we're never going to win. We have to put in our effort and hold the line and gain ground, folks. And if you look at Sario and you see that this is somebody that you can support, please do so. Jack Guerrero, I've met this gentleman. He is a solid guy with a stellar background who, when in government, will represent the people and strong principle and values, especially as it relates to finance. And conservatism and fiscal conservatism. So, folks, get involved. Don't think it's LA, no big deal. They're lost. This is the mentality that's killing the country. Yes. And with virtual stuff, in terms of phone banking, I don't know about Jack Guerrero's, you can do that from anywhere. When the CAGOP helps as it comes time for the general elections coming up, get signed up because they're going to be doing phone banking. You can do that from anywhere.
Jack's race points out another reason that we should be fighting tooth and nail in city council races. Jack's a city councilman.
Yes, he is.
That's where you cut your teeth. That's your farm team. That's proving ground for conservatives to then take the next step. You don't just shoot out of the gate and, okay, Donald Trump did. But most people don't come out of the gate and win the presidency on their first shot at office.
Right.
So we really need to encourage people in the training grounds.
Right. Well, I'm glad that Brandon is running, and I'm glad that he's doing well, and his social media looks to be back up and running. And thank you again, Roxanne, for being involved and staying engaged. We have a lot of work to do here in California, and many people like yourself and myself were delegates and are involved because it's representative. We represent the Republicans in our area. But it takes other people who say, hey, I want to be a delegate, or I want to be on a central committee, or I want to be part of a shaping committee that's within the CAGOP. Wow, how can I do that? Get involved in your local party. Get involved in your local committees. And it's people like Roxanne and others who are doing that are going to make the restorative change that we need here in California. So I want to thank you for playing that part, for doing that role. And I know it takes time.
You. Well, yeah, but those two words, restorative change, you're spot on. That's what we need.
Right. Back to the Constitution, liberty, freedom. That's where it's at. And far too many people have gone way left or even way right, if you want to think of it that way. But what we have to look at is liberty. Where were the founders? What were they thinking about when they shaped this great country? We've come too far, and now government is continually looking to regulate and legislate our liberties away, literally, when they really don't have the authority to do so. But we have to hold that line, and I believe it is people like you and many others here in California that are doing that. And that's why there's so much chatter across the country. California's lost. No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. I'm glad there's an argument as to whether or not that's true, because it tells me that a lot of people are seeing California in the news, maybe in a bad light, but there is that glimmer of hope. And we need to keep that, not Obama hope and change, but the actual hope for restorative change to get this state back on track. Because this state goes, the nation is gone.
Yep.
So,
absolutely. Thank you. God bless you, Erin.
Thank you so much.
God bless everyone out there.
Oh, God bless you, Roxanne. You take care and keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Great.
To hear more and to learn more on how you can make an impact or about the Erin Cruz Show, visit us online at erincruz.com. That's erincruz.com. Thank you for joining us, and see you at the same time and the same place next week.